For years ago, my family erased me like I never existed. Yesterday, they walked into my office like they owned the place. And then my mother said something that made my blood run cold. My name is Ava Reynolds. I'm 35, and I built a cybersecurity company from nothing. No shortcuts, no support, just long nights and a lot of silence, because 4 years ago, my own family cut me out of their lives. No calls, no messages, nothing. And eventually, I got used to it. Until yesterday. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Most of my team was wrapping up meetings, getting ready to leave. I was in my office reviewing a report when my assistant, Julia, knocked on the door. But something about her expression felt off. "Ava," she said carefully, "there are 3 people in the lobby asking for you." "Clients?" I asked. She shook her head. "They said, they're your family." I froze. That word didn't feel familiar anymore. "Who exactly?" I asked. She hesitated for a moment. "Your parents, and a man who says he's your brother." For a second, the room felt smaller. For years of silence, and now they were here? I stood up slowly and said, "Send them to the conference room." Walking down that hallway didn't feel normal. Every step felt heavy, like I already knew this wasn't a simple visit. When I opened the conference room door, there they were, my mother, my father, and Daniel, my older brother, sitting comfortably like they belonged there. My father looked around the room first. "Nice place," he said casually. "Bigger than I expected." My mother gave me a small smile, like nothing had ever happened. "Hello, Ava." "And Daniel?" He leaned back in his chair with a smirk. Not bad, for someone who couldn't run a business. I stayed near the door. "You shouldn't be here," I said calmly. My father waved his hand like it didn't matter. "We didn't come all this way to stand. Sit." I didn't move. "What do you want?" My mother sighed, almost like I was the problem. "Is that how you greet us after all this time?" I looked straight at her. "You disappeared for 4 years. You don't get to act surprised." Daniel rolled his eyes. "Can we skip the drama? We're here for business." That word hit differently. Business. My father reached into a folder and slid a stack of papers across the table. "Read it," he said. I didn't pick them up. "What is it?" "A partnership agreement," my mother answered. "With who?" I asked. Daniel smiled. "With me." I let out a soft laugh. "You showed up after 4 years, to ask for a partnership?" Daniel leaned forward slightly. "Not ask." My mother pushed the papers closer. "Sign them." I stared at her. "What?" "Transfer 50% of your company to Daniel," she said coldly. For a moment, I thought I had heard wrong. My father stepped in. "His company needs support right now. If investors see your business connected to his, it stabilizes everything." I slowly picked up the papers. 50%, half of everything I built. "You really think I'm just going to give this away?" I asked quietly. Daniel shrugged. "You wouldn't even have this without the family name." I looked up. "Really?" Then my mother leaned closer, her voice dropping lower. "You're going to sign it." "Why?" I asked. She held my gaze for a long moment, then said, "Because if you don't, I'll call your biggest client tonight and tell them exactly what kind of person you really are." Silence filled the room. Because she knew. Losing that client would hurt, badly. My father watched me carefully. "You built something impressive," he said calmly, "but business runs on trust." Daniel smirked. "And if that trust disappears, so does your company." For a few seconds, I said nothing. For years ago, they called me a failure. For years ago, they erased me. And now they were here, to take half of everything. And then, I did the last thing they expected. I smiled. "All right," I said quietly. My mother blinked. "What?" I said, "All right." Daniel leaned back, satisfied. "See? I told you she'd understand." But none of them noticed one thing. I wasn't smiling because they had one. I was smiling because I already knew something they didn't. And that was about to change everything. Daniel leaned back in his chair, clearly satisfied with himself. My mother relaxed slightly. My father even looked relieved. They thought it was over. But I stayed calm, because I knew exactly what they were missing. I looked at all 3 of them and said, "If we're going to do this, we should do it properly." Daniel frowned slightly. "What does that mean?" A partnership like this, I said, isn't decided in a private meeting. It needs structure, transparency, witnesses. My father nodded slowly. Fair point. Daniel smirked again. Fine. Whatever makes you feel better. My mother crossed her arms. Just don't waste time. I stood up. Good. We're having a company-wide meeting tonight. Investors, leadership team, legal advisors. Everyone will be there. Daniel immediately smiled. Perfect. That makes it official. He thought I was agreeing. But I wasn't. I was setting the stage. As they left the room, Daniel turned back and said with a confident grin, "Family always wins in the end." I smiled politely. "We'll see you tonight." The elevator doors closed, and the moment they did, my expression changed. Because they had just walked straight into my plan. That evening, the entire conference hall was full. My investors were there, senior staff, legal team, everyone who mattered. And of course, my family arrived early. My father walked in like he already owned the place. My mother sat beside him proudly. "Daniel?" He was shaking hands, smiling, acting like the future CEO of my company. They were confident. Too confident. When I finally walked in, the room went quiet. I took my seat at the head of the table. "Thank you all for coming," I said calmly. "This meeting is about an important partnership discussion." My father leaned forward immediately. "Yes, a partnership that will secure the future of this company." Daniel opened his folder and pushed the papers forward. "Let's make it simple. My company takes 50% ownership." My mother nodded. "It's a generous offer. Ava should be grateful." A few investors exchanged looks. Something felt off to them, but nobody spoke. All eyes turned to me. I picked up the papers slowly, flipped through them, then placed them back on the table. "You're right," I said. "It is a generous offer." Daniel smiled instantly. But I wasn't done. That's exactly why, I continued, I wanted this meeting to be public. My father frowned. "What are you talking about?" I leaned back slightly. "Before we sign anything, everyone here deserves to know who they're actually dealing with." Daniel laughed lightly. "Go ahead. I've got nothing to hide." That was his first mistake. I turned toward the door. "Emma, bring them in." The door opened. Two people walked inside. One was a tall man in a dark suit. The other carried a laptop. And in that moment, Daniel's smile disappeared. My mother frowned. "Who are these people?" I looked at them calmly. "Financial auditors." Daniel stood up immediately. "This is unnecessary." The auditor didn't even look at him. He placed a thick folder on the table. "I'm afraid it isn't," he said. The woman connected her laptop to the screen. And suddenly, the entire wall lit up with data. Bank records. Company histories. Transaction trails. Daniel's confidence started cracking. My father leaned forward. "What is all this?" The auditor spoke clearly. "These are records of Daniel's previous companies." Daniel snapped. "This meeting is over." But nobody moved. The auditor continued anyway. 3 companies. All shut down within 2 years. My mother tried to interrupt. "That doesn't prove anything." The auditor nodded. "You're right. It doesn't." Then he clicked again. "But transferring investor funds into personal offshore accounts does." The room went dead silent. My father's face changed. "What?" The screen showed it clearly. $2 million. Transferred. Daniel's hand shook slightly. "This is fake." But then 2 security guards stepped inside. And everything stopped. Daniel looked at me, panic rising in his voice. "You set me up." I leaned back calmly. "No." I paused. "You set yourself up the moment you walked in here and tried to take 50% of something you didn't build." My mother whispered, "Ava, what is going on?" I looked at all 3 of them. And finally said the truth they never expected. "You didn't come here to partner with me. You came here to steal from me." The room stayed frozen. No one spoke. Daniel was still standing, but now his confidence was gone completely. His hands were slightly shaking, and for the first time, he didn't have a smirk. My father looked confused. My mother looked angry. But neither of them fully understood what was happening yet. Daniel finally broke the silence. "You set me up," he said tightly. "This is illegal. You can't do this." I looked at him calmly. No, I replied. What's illegal is what you've been doing for years. The auditor stepped forward again and flipped to another page. Multiple investor complaints, he said. Unreported fund transfers. And offshore accounts under different names. The screen kept changing. Proof after proof. Line after line. Daniel stepped back slightly. This is not real, he muttered. This is fake. But nobody was convinced anymore. My father's voice dropped. Daniel, what is this? For the first time. Daniel didn't answer. Because he couldn't. My mother turned toward me suddenly. Ava, why are you doing this? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I didn't do anything, I said. You did. I looked directly at her. The moment you walked into my company and tried to take half of what I built, you assumed I was still the same girl you abandoned 4 years ago. A pause. But I'm not. The room felt heavier. Daniel suddenly tried to speak again. Even if all this is true, you can't just destroy me like this. I interrupted him. I didn't destroy you, I said. You did that yourself the moment you started lying about the company we built together. That sentence hit harder than anything else. Because that was the truth none of them wanted to remember. Years ago, before everything broke, Daniel and I had started something together. I wrote the system. I built the core architecture. I built the foundation of everything that became successful. And he took credit for it. Slowly, quietly, until even our parents believed him. My father finally spoke, but his voice was lower now. Ava, is this true? I looked at him for a moment. Not angry, just tired. Yes, I said simply. Silence again. Daniel shook his head. They're lying, he said quickly. She's twisting everything because she's bitter. But my mother didn't look at him anymore. She looked at the screen, at the documents, at the numbers. And slowly, something in her expression changed. Confusion turned into realization. Then discomfort. Then silence. Because deep down, she was starting to see it. I stood up slowly. I didn't call you here to humiliate you, I said. I called you here so everything is done legally, publicly, and with full transparency. I slid the original agreement back toward Daniel. Your 50% request is rejected. A pause. But there's more. Daniel frowned. What more? I looked at the auditor. He nodded and opened the final file. Based on financial irregularities and fraud findings, he said calmly, we are recommending immediate investigation and freezing of related accounts. That was it. Daniel's face went completely pale. No, he whispered. No, this can't be happening. Security moved closer. My father took a step forward. Ava, he's your brother. I looked at him, and this time, my voice softened. I know. A beat. But he also tried to steal my life's work. Daniel was escorted toward the door. As he passed me, he stopped for a second. His voice dropped. You always were the smarter one, he said quietly. But you still lost something today. I looked at him. What did I lose? He smiled weakly. Your family. Then he was gone. The room stayed silent long after. My mother couldn't look at me. My father didn't know what to say. But I wasn't looking for their approval anymore. I had already learned something years ago. Family isn't always loyalty. Sometimes, it's just history. Weeks later, Daniel's case became public. The investigation confirmed everything. But what surprised me most wasn't that he was guilty. It was that none of them ever called again after that day. Not even once. Honestly, if I were in that situation, I don't think I would have stayed as calm as she did. But sometimes silence and patience hit harder than anger ever could. What would you have done in Ava's place? Forgive them, or end it forever right there?